morning. And there's Mr. Gescheit. Uh-oh.
I'm here.
You had something to show there, but it's off screen. So let me take myself off.
Oh, it's okay. I can hold it in front
There
of
we go.
Okay. Yeah. I guess we should touch on the Little No Kings rally, the hate festival that we both, of whatever, 50 or 100,000 people in San Francisco participated on that day when 7 million Americans came out peacefully, and we ran into each other there. What are the odds, man?
When you got a sign like that.
It's true. It's true. It was. I was thrilled to say it was getting a lot of attention, which of course is the point. We want to get all these images out there and flood the zone, as the brilliant Steve Bannon, Project 2025 fan, would say, with images of our hate of people who hate on America and democracy.
And I'm pulling the MAGA just so everyone knows. Look how much American paraphernalia I have, and I went out and I had the Constitution stenciled onto my big diesel truck today, and I put some gun stickers on the back, and I killed some animals, and I trafficked some children. So now I'm good with you guys, right? Am I in the gang yet?
I try sometimes on this show to just stick to our topics of the environment and animals and the climate crisis, stuff like that, and not drift too heavily into politics. And then it gets to a point in this country where things are kind of going downhill real quick out of the White House, out of Washington, that it's like, well, when is it appropriate to say, hey, wait a second, this is kind of like a neo-Nazi party, and it's going to take down this country and kill millions of people. Like, when is the appropriate time to sort of bring that into every conversation, which, is divisive?
Well, it's completely related, because if you have people that are that willing to be pieces of shit to other humans, how do you think the planet outside of the human race is going to fare?
The trouble is, I participated in this show called The Enemies Project. There's an episode where I spent 9 hours with the guy, a Proud Boy, which is one of the things that we liberals consider a hate group, and, have evidence for that, sure. But my opinion, after spending time in a room with him, with a mediator, so we would get into arguments about policy, and we disagreed on everything. Of course, he's watching completely different media than I am. I believe I have the truth, and I believe I'm, better informed, but he believes it too. Excuse me. And I just came away, he wasn't a bad guy. I can't prove anything, but everything in me says this isn't a bad guy. He's just watching, in effect, the Fox News media bubble, and he's getting brainwash is the nasty word. The other way is just conditioned to believe other things. Like I saw an ex's 90-year-old father watching Fox News every day, and then they come out thinking Trump is their hero.
Sorry, no, and I don't want to hear about that Proud Boy anymore. I don't buy it.
I know.
Sorry, you have a responsibility as a human being to have enough of a light bulb in your head where, whether Fox News is shoving it down your throat or not, that you say, you know what? No. I'm sorry. The president shouldn't be tweeting AI in the first place, or spending time on it, or conjuring up. If just picture the insecure, tiny dick, orange president of the United States sitting there telling AI, make a jet of me dropping shit on Americans in New York. I don't care which side you're on. If a Democratic president was that petty and conjured up something for AI to post about Americans, god damn right I'd have a problem with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that.
So you hear one news source talking about how horrifying that is, and then what do you fucking know? There's Fox News saying Trump with a comeback that only Trump could come up with. Yeah. If you're not intelligent enough to say, sorry, Fox, that's weird and disturbing and gross, then you're a lost cause, and I'm not letting you off the hook because you're being brainwashed.
Well, hence the comparisons to a cult. MAGA is often called a cult, where you believe what you believe, and at a certain point it becomes impervious to facts, logic, reasoning, dissent, differing opinion. Yeah.
I do have some good news. Can I show everyone some good news?
Please, go for it.
Starbucks is our rescue because we have such protein deficiencies, such protein problems that now you can have a shot of protein in your um, whatever beverage.
I'm sorry, is this dairy milk or non-dairy milk they're showing? I'm not quite sure. I can't see the bottom line underneath made delicious.
It's just some sort of frothy beverage that they'll put protein in anything now because
Oh,
that's the only thing that fucking matters to human beings now is protein.
yeah. Well, that's because as we all know, I mean, as we saw on Saturday, there's just a rash of the disease kwashiorkor spreading through America. And of course, everyone knows what kwashiorkor because it's so prevalent, which is a disease specifically of protein deficiency. You've heard of kwashiorkor, right, Skylar?
Nope.
It's spelled with a K, kind of phonetically. It's a Ghanan from Ghana word, and it's specifically a protein deficiency, which of course no one's heard of because it doesn't exist in this country. And that's the joke for us vegans. We have T-shirts that say, "How do you get your protein?" Because we're asked it so many times because people have been brainwashed to think that protein is something you need huge amounts of, and you only get it from, of course, animal products, which is not true, folks. Not true. So there we go. We're let's see, 8 minutes in, 9 minutes in, and we've touched on veganism and the ridiculousness of defending the position of not killing animals to get your protein.
So you've got a lot for us today, and let me put the graphic for today's show up just to set the mood.
Yeah, remind me what I'm doing because I can't. Oh, there it is, missing the point. Oh, whoa. Yes. Well, this is a couple things here. This is getting back into the documentary called "Leaving the Point," which is a 19-minute, supposedly independently produced. I would guess heavily that some of the financing, which is always coming into documentary films, as it must, comes from the cattle industry because it's just so. It does two things. It focuses on some of the myths, right? Hey, the hardworking ranchers stewarding the land at Point Reyes, which is a myth both inside of Point Reyes Seashore near us in Marin County and everywhere in America, that commercial cattle operations for beef and dairy do the opposite of stewarding the land. They degrade the land and poison the water and, of course, fill the air with methane from cows, regardless of whether they're regeneratively ranched and move around. And then the other thing they do is, in the case of Point Reyes, is intentionally, because a director gets to decide what to show, as you know, they leave out facts like, oh yeah, the ranchers were paid to leave the seashore years ago and did not. They reneged on the deal, kept the money, and stayed put and kept ranching. And also, oh, by the way, huge amounts of manure pollution from millions of pounds of manure going on the ground and washing into the waterways. Those two little facts, rather key, not included in the film, even though they show a few clips of environmentalists. So it completely misses the point, which is a great line. I want to credit to Ray Cooper, one of our regular listeners, for calling this film, which was originally Leaving the Point, we call it Missing the Point. So we got 5 minutes in, Skyware, was it, to critiquing it?
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to do more. I mean, there's lots more stuff we can talk about, but it's so enjoyable to show the propaganda and be able to push back on it and just stop it and say, nonsense, folks, get that, so we can, fight back the propaganda.
I was thinking about the entitlement that the farm workers seem to have gotten through osmosis from being around these ranchers, and the fact that even in a nation where ICE is coming after anyone that they possibly can, that these undocumented workers of the farmers are demanding that taxpayers provide them with housing and jobs. It's not that I want bad for people, but the sense of entitlement, especially in this atmosphere of the country, is a little bit mind-blowing.
Meaning the ranch workers who are living on national park public land, being paid a relatively low survival wage by the ranchers, are complaining, hey, you, those environmentalists like us two, who've been working with this issue, you're kicking us off and kicking us off our land. Well, it's not your land, and you're ending our jobs. Well, you're employed by the ranchers who don't pay you well at all. And now, of course, the other thing we touch on is that the ranchers are going to the public and saying, "Oh, the environmentalists are so nasty," and kicking our poor, hardworking ranchers off the land, even though they provide them, crap wages and are receiving millions of dollars that they don't share with their workers, whom they now profess to care so much about. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's it. And, it's just consistency. I'm looking for consistency because farms are shutting down all across the country. Farms are having problems because of their labor force being arrested and kicked out. The tariffs are hurting ranchers. The drought and climate change are hurting ranchers. It's not just the ranches in Point Reyes National Seashore that are closing down. And yet, no one cares about any of the farm workers on any of these other properties because we're busy making America great again by getting rid of them, while Caucasians apparently aren't capable of raising children willing to go out and do physical labor. Therefore, we're dependent upon the people that we're villainizing, except in Point Reyes, where the millionaire Trump supporting ranchers are untouched by ICE, kind of like Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. So do we want to jump into this film and start shredding it a bit?
Yep.
Thank you for handling the technical things on the play it again.
Oh, well, I thought you had a whole bunch prepared for today, so I'll go cue that video up.
Well, I have just a note for the future. I'd rather do the film because we only got 5 minutes in and it's going to take up a lot of time. I did do some more research on your favorite group, the Nature Conservancy.
Oh, okay.
It's tricky. I feel this pressure to kind of do a deeper dive on them, but the Nature Conservancy, folks, is, again, to repeat, but it's worth doing, is it's a gigantic organization. And, doesn't it sound wonderful? The Nature Conservancy, they're conserving nature. And, you, Skylar, of course, famously were like really disgusted when they stepped in to make this deal at Point Reyes happen. But of course, now we learn they're going to restore the land in Point Reyes damaged by cattle. By what? By bringing in more cows to, mow the lawns, basically, mow the lawns of grasses that exist because cows were brought in the first place. So we always boil it down to the problem is pitched as the solution. It's insane. And I found more in the Nature Conservancy basically doing the same with logging. They're now pushing the typical narrative we also talk about here and need to keep talking about, which is forests are dangerous fuel loads. We need to thin them and manage them and cut them and mow them and masticate them to make ourselves safe from wildfire in the West. And that is, again, the same issue of the problem is cutting down trees. The solution is not, as they propose, cutting down more trees. So the Nature Conservancy is in on that one as well. But maybe it's a separate show to go into it in a deeper dive. I'd rather finally finish this. This is what we promised to do. Where is ICE?
So, I mean, listen, again, let me reiterate. My goal is not for anyone to suffer what ICE agents put people through. My point is, how in this scary political climate could you be brainwashed enough to think that you get to be undocumented and demand that housing and payments be provided for you
by the government?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, which means by the taxpayer.
By the taxpayer, yeah, exactly.
So, and hello at Lynn Klein also, and
good morning,
thank
Lynn.
you, Phoenix, for chiming in. But I had one more point before I put the video up on the screen about the entitlement, because I was thinking about my film Elkwater, which is being re-edited to become Death Park. And you love that title, huh?
Yeah, I do like that. Well, it kind of gets right to it. It even plays a little bit off of South Park, which is in the news again these days. It should be. That's great. Death Park. Wonderful.
Can we just do a day of the week where we sit and watch South Park together, and this will be an episode?
That would be fun. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You, Skylar, you do an impressive amount of work. Seriously, you have suggested to me, know this, dear listeners, as far as like, well, we could do another show every week, and I'm like, I actually take more time to prepare a little bit. Not that you see that on the screen, but
Do
it
not.
yeah. Well, I mean, I can always run my mouth. So if it's just watching, what is it? Mystery Science Theater 2000 for people who
Yeah,
are old enough to know that, where basically the guys just sort of watched a movie and riffed on it. I just
yeah.
like to be a little bit prepared. Otherwise, I'd sound even less coherent than I do this morning. But sure, looking at the South Park thing, which I haven't seen all of, I've seen clips, but it's God, the courage. I just love it in this day and age. Or in
No,
this
I don't have time to watch it. This gives me an excuse to have time to watch it, and
and share with listeners.
we can share it with everyone.
Is
Okay, so
is that, by the way, can you do that with copyright issues? I don't know.
of course, there's always copyright issues, but you play around with it and you see what works and what doesn't work. Other people are figuring out how to do it.
Okay. Meaning you
Um,
put it on YouTube and it gets pulled or it doesn't by the algorithm for permission?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, you saw on my. Thank you, by the way, for tuning in to the Shark Show. Did you tune in early enough to hear about how I filled out the form and like had a page and a half explaining why I actually was not guilty of copyright, and I hit submit during the appeal and it was rejected a millisecond later.
Yes,
So
or a
it's
rejection by the machine age. Yes, by the algorithm. Yeah, of course.
uh,
Yeah, it's
so
a bit, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say something daring, but I actually think in the automated age of AI coming on more that the customer service is actually not as good as it used to be. It doesn't make any sense, right? But that's what I'm beginning to wonder.
well, this is the problem with humans. Customer service was so bad that you almost have to wonder if the robot that is trying to figure out what you're talking about in real time is better or worse than where customer service was when it was replaced by that robot, because it's bad. It's real fucking bad.
I was walking in a park on Sunday and bumped into with a friend and bumped into a 23-year-old sweet kid. He's just moved. He got out of college. He's at Berkeley and he's living with his parents still because he can't afford a rent. And he just got a job in tech industry working on AI stuff as a programmer. And I kept thinking to myself when I was 23 and just got a job with an advertising agency for the Ford Motor Company account at J. Walter Thompson, New York. I had an office and all the accoutrement, a business card. It said J. Walter Thompson, copywriter. Wow, I made it. And it was fun for a couple of years because, all of a sudden I had a paycheck and a secretary and an office, a window office, and wow. And it took a few years for me to realize, like, oh, wait, what am I doing with my life? I mean, like, as I used to joke, gather round, kids, says Grandpa Jack, 40 years in the future, 50 years. Look at what I did with my life. And you get to show him a reel of Ford truck commercials. And, this kid is working on AI, which is, I think, far worse than any advertising I did. And he doesn't know. He's a kid. He's learning. But this is where we take our best and brightest to make faster automated machines to, to put more people out of work.
Yeah, he's coding himself out of a job.
Indeed. Indeed.
So we have to give Ray Cooper credit for missing the point title, right?
Yeah, that is his. I don't see him here. He's usually here, but he's doing something else today. I'm curious how he was out sharing and selling his world peace chocolate. This is up in Petaluma at a park he goes to. It's the only place on earth you can get delicious, creamy, non-dairy, vegan, dark chocolate from World Peace Chocolate. And I was curious how he did because he was guilty that he wasn't doing an event, for joining the No Kings rally, but he was out in a public place. And I just want to know what his scene was up there. How many people came out to Petaluma?
Hello, honest doubter. Dream jobs are a farce. Your reason for embodiment is a dream life. Fair enough.
There are dream jobs, are there not? Or I see mine, mine, the advertising one and the AI one. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. I hope people are watching. I'm going to put out another episode today. My actual, straight, factual defeating of the Kevin Lundy lies that are appearing in this video. Like, it's not just me and Jack saying we don't agree with him. He's straight up lying to the camera, and we have documentation from history proving that he's lying to the camera, and I've been providing that in my videos in the playlist series called Ranchers versus Reality. So, for supplemental viewing, I recommend that people watch those. Now, I had a point about the entitlement thing. It wasn't just to talk about the workers and their sense of entitlement. I was thinking about how Lunny and the Park Service themselves, unfortunately, claim that the ranchers have a right to be there and that they're meant to be there. And I started thinking about everything that the ranchers complain about and their demands to get help and to be allowed to do more of this and more of that in order to continue to be profitable in a business
While already being heavily subsidized.
while already being heavily subsidized. I mean, the entire industry is based on being subsidized or it wouldn't exist at all. So don't tell me that it's sustainable.
Beef and dairy, both beef and dairy in the park and beyond the park. Yeah.
But let's just erase that argument and look at.
No, I won't.
Okay, let's shelf it briefly to focus on the fact that the Park Service went from agreeing or allowing ranching to continue because it was a tradition and a way of life to they have to protect the profit margins of the ranchers. It's the Park Service's mandate to make sure that ranching remains profitable so much that you'll kill native wildlife because ranchers say that the native wildlife are a threat to profits. Now, no matter how you feel about ranching, how in the hell is it the Park Service's job to defend profits of ranchers over wildlife?
Well, to your point, when the Tule elk were reintroduced, they were a native species. They'd been on that land for thousands and thousands of years until they were shot and pushed off by European immigrants, not just ranchers. And then, hey, the national park wants to reintroduce a wild animal into the park. Well, they went into the park and immediately went into a compound that was an area of land that was a narrow peninsula and fenced it off. So wild animals are brought into a national park and they're immediately fenced in. Why? For the cattle industry. How crazy is that? And that was considered normal at the time, with PhDs working on providing them a happy setting behind fences for the cattle industry. What's wrong with the picture?
Knowing even in doing so that they were going to bottleneck and start suffering massive die-offs because of the limited land. So, but that's humans being kind. That's where we are. That's the best we can hope for, apparently.
So this brings us full circle to the cultural conditioning, aka brainwashing, aka propaganda, aka advertising and public relations of the cattle industry, telling you that beef and dairy are good for you and good for the land when they're bad for you and bad for the land and completely unnecessary and, oh, by the way, horrifically cruel. And there's this propaganda film we're going to get to show you their point of view and, oh, I don't know, rip it to shreds. Would that be fair to say?
And let me say, and good morning, Chris Cedar. And let me say one more time as we hit play, I have documented facts that show that Kevin Lunny is lying to the camera. And there's more liars in this video, right? That we haven't even gotten to yet.
We'll see what we see. And this is, again, folks, the documentary film, 19 minutes, called Leaving the Point, which is renamed for us as Missing the Point. Thank you, Ray Cooper.
Oh.
It's a breath of joy. Get ready to tilt that bucket of horse manure.
All right, so we're going to, for those of you who missed part one, it's up on YouTube. We're going to fast forward, I don't know, what, 2 minutes that we made it through?
I think 5 minutes. There's
God, school. Oh, my God, I forgot about the school brainwash.
The classroom. The children of the ranchers saying, why are they being so mean to us? They don't understand how good we are. Yeah, these poor kids. You don't
tell me something. Yeah. How did this kid ever get invasive weeds on his mind and the cost of goat grazing on his mind? How did that even get into his brain?
Listening to his dad or Kevin?
Yeah, he never thought about it once before in his life, and his teachers certainly aren't teaching him about ecology.
Here's the history, and there's beautiful Tule elk. Name of the film.
Oh yeah, here's where the Lunnies come out and pretend like they do things, and showing the wonderful connection to the land by motorcycling over the top. So
their intimate connection with the land, just the way their grandpappy did in a three-wheeler.
Let's make sure there's always a separation.
Wow.
separated by the four-wheeler and the boots and the pesticides on the ground and the shit. We have
And
never actually made physical contact with
and,
Point Reyes itself.
as you said before, aerial view only when the grass is green, not the 6 months of the year when there's no
Only
green
when the
there.
grass is green.
And no close up of the stock pond on the right side of the picture there, which is basically manure polluted, and you wouldn't want to drink from it. No one
Oh, is this Nunez? Is this where I pointed out the dump? Yeah, we already watched this too.
I don't want to misspeak. It's either A or B, and I forget which. Maybe B Ranch, B or
No,
C, B or C.
No, E.
Okay, I don't know then. Clearly, I don't.
Dotted with some small ranches. Each one of these are around 1,000 acres. And these are small family farms. This is not big agriculture here. This is exactly where
pause it. Can you let's play a game. Spot the lie. These are small family farms, about 1,000. What do you say? About 1,000 acres. So the USDA rates a CAFO, a concentrated animal feeding operation. There's a couple different rules, but I believe it's 700 cows or more is automatically considered. 600 or 700. Someone in the audience might correct me. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's 700 cows. Some of these places had more than that. And then also, if they're effluent, the manure goes directly into a waterway untreated, which it did, then it's also considered a CAFO. So in many cases, not all, these ranches were technically large operations. Now, they're smaller than gigantic operations in Bakersfield, let's say, but they're technically concentrated animal feeding operations, which pollute the land, according even to the USDA, which is incredibly lax with its standards.
Leah, what's Leah's comment say?
She says, spot 2, TUE, which maybe is a short for Tuesday, but Leah's doing 14 or maybe 16 things at once right now, so I don't demand much of her. She wants to come back around and elaborate. Please do.
Okay, so there's also just the arrogantly confident method of telling people that 1,000 acres is small. Is it? Is 1,000 acres small?
There you go. And she writes, here we go. Spot the small family farms and you'd be rich.
Yes, spot them. Please come out and point them to me, because here's how small they are. If you try to hold your breath driving past them, you will die.
Meaning that's how bad the stench is for so long driving by them.
No, I'm that too.
What did you mean?
Hey, no, meaning it takes so long to drive past them, you can't hold your breath that long.
Oh, got it. Right.
That's how big they are.
Yeah.
Anyway,
do you think if you sat on a horse, it would break under his weight?
Him?
The guy in the I guess he's not the worst offender in his 3-wheeler, because like you say, he's connected deeply and intimately with the land, riding around in his golf cart.
No, Kevin Lunny is only pregnant with a single child. Most of these people look like they're expecting triplets.
I know this is wrong, but I just came from the New Kings Rally, so this is intimately connected to the land, just like our president is when he plays golf in the same vehicle.
Right. So 28,000 acres of Point Reyes was ranched. So when you realize that there's only a handful of families out there, that means that the handful of families who lease multiple ranches end up having 28,000 acres.
Right.
And these families all have acreage outside of Point Reyes also. There's nothing small taking place.
That is a great point, Skylar. It's like if you go
it
down
is.
It is. If I do say so myself, and I'm Skylar with a cool cowboy hat, an American cowboy hat. In other words, these guys are constantly saying we're better.
You can't attack me, but I do have to go change the stenciling on my truck, because now MAGA doesn't like parts of the Constitution. So I'm going to go scrape those parts off.
You cynical mofo. Let's
Oh,
just have
no
this
one,
on in the background.
we're both untouchable now.
It was nice that actually on Saturday, the people who actually want the democratic institutions, and the Constitution and the rule of law, and not following a king or a would-be king, actually kind of reclaimed the flag. It was good to see so many happy people who actually understand, have the intelligence to understand how the institutions of this country work, saying, "Hey, this represents our vision of the country too. It's not just
Yeah, I was
Yahoo's."
talking to a Navy veteran the other day, and he's a pretty cool guy, so I was almost afraid to talk politics with him. And he was like, "Yeah, it's really sad that the American flag was hijacked, and now when you see it, you cringe and worry."
I spoke to a fellow vegan activist who's got a 23-ish, 24-year-old son in the Navy, I think it was, armed services anyway. And she said she would talk to him. I don't know the rules about how often she can talk to him and how often he was deployed somewhere. But saying that the only TV that they're allowed is, it was a communal area, the mess hall or whatever, and it was playing Fox News. And he didn't know anything about the No Kings rally or what was going on because, of course, No Kings wouldn't be shown. So
Which, by the way, was poorly organized or didn't take place at all, or everyone was paid to be there.
Well, I got my $20 check.
Full of vicious, violent extremists, or a bunch of pussies who weren't violent enough, according to criticism from the right. So it either didn't happen at all, or one of those other versions.
And I don't know what you're I got my $20 check from George Soros. He's my guy.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah. I don't know why you didn't sign up on the right website. Clearly, yeah. I mean, he gave me my sign, and the idea for this sign and the whole thing. This is George. It says down here. It says George Soros printed.
Did you get to meet the founders of Antifa also?
Oh God! It's. I swear, ignorance is strength, baby. Antifa. What does that mean? Antifa. I know it's bad. I know they're commies, but anti-fascist. That sounds bad to me. I guess I'm pro-fascist. Right. I don't even know what fascist means. I guess it means I have fascia on my feet. Oh wait, too fancy a word. What does that mean? Oh boy, ignorance is strength, baby. The hypocrisy drives me bonkers, writes Leah. I wore my "Animals Are Not Products" t-shirt. Oh, mixing your messages. You're ambitious. Oh, boy. So on with money here. Go ahead.
1,000 acres is just small enough to devastate.
A very good point. Oh, and to that point, yeah, your thing about observing that collectively these clowns had 28,000 acres of a national park, or GGNRA is 10,000 of that 28, if I understand my numbers correctly. But they're constantly saying a giant CAFO or, concentrated animal feeding operations in Bakersfield, for instance. I keep going to that town where there's, there are Harris ranches, I don't know, whatever it is, 50,000 acres or something huge with 100,000 animals. It's just beyond imagination. But I realized if you took, by their logic, if you went down to Harris Ranch, let's say there's 50,000 cows there, and actually there's more than 100,000 cows. Actually, I read that recently. And you just put a whole bunch of fences in and broke it up into 1,000 parcels of 100 cows each. Then you could say, well, each of those are, and you gave them to your cousins to own each of those smaller plots. You can say, hey, we're each just small family farms. Collectively, it's a huge number of cows, as at Point Reyes. But just by drawing artificial lines and saying, well, they're separately owned, then it's all fine. Then there's no pollution, no methane emissions, no water pollution, manure on the land, right? It's all better now because they're small. It's a meaningless demarcation, in other words.
Oh, Leah has a challenge for us. We could turn this into a drinking game. Count how many times that lying small family farms message is repeated.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's the humane washing that Leah does talks on, and I'll be doing my humane washing machine exhibition November 1st in San Francisco at the San Francisco Vegan.
And Leah mentions the MAGAs and the make America great again. And I have yet to see one specify exactly when that was that they're trying to get back to. Has anyone seen somebody nail down a time?
I would think, Ozzie and Harriet time, where it was really nice white people living in separate beds, wearing pajamas rather than copulating like the Christians do behind closed doors. Oh, I shouldn't go there, should I? This is naughty.
I think it was January 6th. That was the best time in America.
Oh, you're talking about the recent January 6th when they were trying to support democracy by pooping on representatives' desks. That one?
And attacking, officers.
Yeah. Yeah, that it is fascinating how
That was the best. That's the best time in America. If we could just keep it right there.
it was a love fest. They were loving the Constitution. So, shall we play this film here? We got people like champing at the film bit.
Yeah. Can you throw in TNC facts as we go? Because Ray Cooper chimed in. Ray, we credited you for the Missing the Point title. He wants you to drop some TNC facts as we go along.
Yeah, sure.
You'll either be inspired to or you won't. But
well,
Ray,
I can read one right now.
Okay.
The Nature Conservancy gets revenue from a range of companies in the beef and dairy, fast food, and grocery industries. I'm going to repeat part of that again. TNC, Nature Conservancy, this giant conservation group, gets revenue from including Burger King, gives money to the Nature Conservancy, Cargill, which is the producer of, I believe, animal supplies, cattle operation supplies, Cargill, Chobani, Chobani, I don't know Chobani, do you? Costco Dairy Management Incorporated, Red Lobster, Tyson Foods is a giant beef supplier, Walmart, I guess you could argue it both ways, with reported donations from 12 to $28 million from 2017 to 2022. TNC also, you'll enjoy this, Skylar. Everybody watch Skylar's face as I read these words. The Nature Conservancy also directly pays the beef and dairy industry to end ranching in certain areas, as with Point Reyes ranchers paid $30 to $40 million to give up their leases. No reaction? Isn't that good? Yay!
Well, I happen to have some information in front of me that will make you wonder. So some of that 28,000 acres that were ranched will no longer be ranched, but a large portion of the former ranch land, about 16,000 acres, will be reclassified as scenic landscape zone for conservation purposes, which means 16,000 acres of it will more.
Wow. Yeah. So
that's not conservation unless you're trying to conserve a point in time where Europeans said coming here and destroying everything for a stupid commodity is worth conserving. Don't let anyone ever forget that, as if we possibly could, since the entire fucking country is covered with ranching. But in a national park, God forbid anyone forget what it looked like when the cattle were there.
Yeah, well, it's a long history. It goes back 150 years, whereas Native American history only goes back, I don't know, 15,000 years. So, who are you going to believe?
Jack, come on. There were no Native Americans there.
So
God dropped white people on America because that's what God wanted, and what white people are doing in America is what God wanted also.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, and God's a white guy. We know that. So our buddy Ray Cooper of World Peace Chocolate writes, I think he's exaggerating. I hope. He says he does his chocolate sales up in Petaluma's Walnut Park every Saturday from, I think, 2 to 5 or 11 to 5. I forget exactly. 4,000 people, he writes, surrounded my chocolate booth. And I had the best single day of chocolate sales ever.
Really?
That's what he just wrote.
That's a lot of people.
Corinne is here. Good morning, Corinne. Writes, fantastic, Ray. Congratulations, Ray, from Chris. Yeah, meaning I guess that the Walnut Park was a place where the ralliers came out, and then it could be actually 4,000 people. Ray doesn't exaggerate, so I think he meant there were actually a count of 4,000 people in Petaluma. That's certainly possible in that small town against
honest doubter. Just to acknowledge that I read this, it's probably another episode topic, but are you talking about COVID or are you talking about other pharmaceuticals? Are you referring to COVID during that pushing vaccines and things like that during that time period? Are you talking about something else? Just want the Oh God. And here's another one from Honest Doubter.
I just read that. I'd never heard the term, so thank you, Honest Doubter, for the education. Has this band of vegan heroes, thank you, heard of the term 4D meat, which is shorthand for animals that were dead, dying, diseased, or disabled / down when sourced for meat used in USA for pet foods? I never heard the term. No, have you, Skylar?
No.
And also,
So is that another way for people to feel better about continuing to eat it because it was dead and dying anyway? Which, of course, most of the time they're dead, dying, and suffering because they're in that industry in the first place. But no, I don't know that 4D meat. I am unaware.
Yeah, that's a new one to me. I don't know whether I can't tell whether you're saying that's a USDA demarcation or whether that's something that we do critical of the industries. But I'm just laughing. You know, I mean, this is what we should be doing, is kind of working with our audience here, and this is great. But like, you know, I think we made it one more minute into the film, right?
Okay, back to the video. Honest Doubter clarified he is talking about COVID, so we can talk about it at some point in the future.
Yeah, it's another rabbit hole to go play in. Although I like rabbit holes, so that's not fair to rabbits.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get a couple more seconds in.
Wait, stop.
Most people would like their food to come from.
Stop. No, I'm teasing. It's all right. Most people
are you? I mean, there was like judgment.
Yeah.
Only people who don't care where their foods comes from would ever shut down a ranch.
Right. Because you and I don't care where our food comes from. We care that little that we want to put this poor guy out of his welfare ranch.
Yeah. Leah, aren't you also talking about hot dogs? The scrapings off of slaughterhouse floors.
So Leah says, yes, most pet foods are discarded animal parts that weren't deemed good enough for humans. So this is different grades. And I do know that I remember learning long time ago, way before I was stopped eating hot dogs, beef hot dogs, that is, that 100% beef by the USDA means technically up to 20% beef filler and 80% beef. And that can be other parts, animal parts. I don't know whether it's the 4D stuff we're learning about here, but it ain't pure. All beef doesn't mean all beef. Back to George Orwell's.
God damn it. Honest Doubter, stop saying shit I want to talk about because we're trying to get through this. But listen, man, I think all the time about how can anyone be surprised that their animals get sick or die young or etc. with what people feed them. I agree. I mean, I agree with you. And simultaneously, we have the new marketing push that I've gotten into about how now they put grass-fed on dog food bags or dog treats. And bullshit. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, I have a theory that it's not our cats and dogs and our pets that are choosing the foods and reading the labels. I think those labels are meant for humans to read. So it makes perfect sense. All the same nonsense. The humane washed words that go on our packaging should go on our pet foods too.
Oh God. Do you know what a condemnation pile is?
I can guess from the context that it's parts of the chicken that are, condemned and not fit for human consumption, but you can't throw that stuff away, man. There's money in them, our piles, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you, Corinne. Thanks so much. I'm picturing that right now. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, back to.
But there's a movement now to remove people off the landscape.
It's Antifa.
And of course, we want to remove people off the landscape. Nothing about his cows, these poor calves who are separated from their mothers.
And a lot of these people that want to get rid of us are the ones saying, oh, we want to eat local and we want to eat organic.
Are they?
Well, he's conflating, I want to eat local and organic. That's fine. Not that it's a big deal environmentally, by the way. Most of the damage is done by consuming meat and dairy products, animal products, as opposed to eating things from far away. Those fuel costs are actually relatively minor. But I want to eat organic and local, sure. I don't want to eat animal local products.
Yes, this is what there's some very effective brainwashing here.
Yep.
That the only food sources humans have are meat and dairy, which when you go vegan, you will have the rude wake up call that when you go to a shopping center or down the street, you're going to have a very hard time finding something to eat because that's the way it's been designed. And yet, animals are a very small part of what the earth provides for people to eat. And those animals ate that shit first. I got to stop calling things shit. It's
Yeah,
just
well,
it's the lazy way of encompassing everything. I'm trying to connect with the kids.
yeah, I get it. It's eat your vegetables, like our grandmas used to tell us, or great grandmothers at this point.
I'm seeing Honest Doubter if they wanted to open a sanctuary or something like that. Look, Miyoko provided these people with opportunities to transition to plant-based products. They set up an entire organization to try and help these people keep doing what they say that they love, but in a more sustainable way, something that's going to work with climate change better. No. This is what my daddy did. My daddy raped animals and slaughtered them and hurt the planet. Therefore, I have to also.
Well,
until TNC comes in and gives me millions of dollars, and then I'll leave voluntarily.
And also, it's a national park. It's one of the few lands that is, in theory, not always in practice, God help us, but in theory, supposed to be just wild animals and undeveloped places, and not with lawns and grasses and cattle, even if it's not a sanctuary where they're not being then exploited or bred, forcibly impregnated to make more of them. It still doesn't belong in a national park. It's just not what that land is for. It's the only lands, in our country that are supposed to be pristine, and there's very little of it left.
See, okay, Honest Doubter. I can't not talk about this. No, you don't have. I wouldn't vote for this. This isn't a vegan mentality of as long as there's compassion for animals, we're cool with it. Well, I want what's good for the wildlife, and
yeah,
I'm sorry, but sanctuaries are not good for wildlife.
Well, and again, sanctuaries have their place to be a mediator here, self-appointed, but not on this land. And of course, as you know, Honest Doubter, I mean, we agree with Honest Doubter, which is to say, the need of a sanctuary is only because of all the exploitation and abuse in the first place. And these guys don't want to have a sanctuary. They're not there because they love animals, which is why sanctuaries exist. They're there to exploit and kill animals for a profit. Note the difference.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because, of course, you never want to stop providing mercy or compassion for animals that are rescued from a horrific situation. But there's a never-ending supply of that. Therefore, every sanctuary that gets opened is more land that could be habitat. So it's almost like you're being forced to choose between who gets the right to live, wildlife or rescued animals. And it's sad that it comes down to that.
And I'll go back to the solution is get more people
to the factory of misery.
Stop buying the products, folks. We don't have to wait for a company or the government or anything to happen. Just stop eating the products. And that really starts, reducing the size of the beef and dairy industries. Stop eating the products. Simple. It's so simple. It's so simple. And we have such power as consumers.
When the National Seashore was established in the early 1960s, it was a great experiment that contemplated the continuation of agricultural use in Point Reyes. Congress recognized that preservation the ranchers had done over the last century.
Okay, so these are the things that I debunked already, which means that we already got through this part, so we're being redundant. We must have already watched this.
It's okay. We have to be redundant. Each show should.
But everything you just said is a lie.
They're not stewards of the land. They
sue me, Lunny, if I'm wrong.
What's that?
I challenged Kevin Lunny to sue me if I'm wrong because he's lying.
Wouldn't it be great to have a debate? You and him? God. Ray Cooper had him on his show, on his radio show he had for years ago in Petaluma on the public radio station up there. And he had Kevin Lunny on. And Ray and I have talked about this subsequently, where he was, Lunny's a smart man. So he said some stuff that was reasonable, and then he would just slip into the lies. He would just smoothly transition into lies. But God, you're the guy for that job, more than Ray is and more than I am, which is you just call out a liar right to his face on air. And of course, then he wouldn't come on with you in the first place.
important. So they saw no reason to remove the ranches. And that was an agreement made between Congress and the landowners that they could continue their way of life.
Bullshit.
I'm sorry. If nobody watched, please go watch. It was the continuation of ranching was a stopgap measure.
Beautiful.
Because ranchers fought the creation of the seashore so hard for so long and drug it out for so many years that Congress ran out of the money that was necessary, but they wanted to finish creating the seashore. And they said, okay, listen, if we allow you to stay for this amount of time under these conditions and lease the land back, and we give you this money, how's that? The goal was always to get rid of the ranching. And it says in an administrative history of Point Reyes that the only thing stopping the public from enjoying the beauty of the national parks was the continuation of ranching. There's no, oh, wow, this is wonderful, this has to continue. That's a flat out blatant lie.
Yes, what he said. Yeah, I mean, there it is. Perfectly said.
For about the last 2 decades, there has been pressure to undo that agreement. We're a small agrarian-based community, and this idea to remove agriculture from Point Reyes, it kind of pulls us apart. And the people that are driving this are so far removed they don't even know where we are.
Antifa.
Oh God! Oh, I just want to hear the collective expulsion of vomit from our listeners with that stuff. He is so smooth. You wouldn't know what a monstrous lie that all is. You just wouldn't know. We're so far removed, Skyward. We just don't understand how these is a small agrarian. It's such a wonderful word. They're agrarian. Oh, that's sweet. How could I be against agrarianism?
You know what's astonishing is the opposite of that. How many ranch supporters have no fucking idea what's taking place out there? Like, at least we go out there and look at it for ourselves and thoroughly document it.
Yeah. And walk around on the land. Exactly.
Yeah. But he sounds exactly like what they said when all the polling came out showing that people want ranching gone, including the locals. And then they said, oh, well, those are the wrong locals. Don't listen to them. What's Red Brian?
I'm trying to understand that comment. Someone has typed it as a new
listener. Cooper, you went over our heads.
No. The comment before, Red Brian writes, and welcome, Red Brian, whoever you are. Veganism equals current food system - animal-derived foods, even farm-raised honeybees, which pollinate and increase food production. Oh, okay. Equals plant-derived foods only, equals starvation from less available sources. I'm not sure, Red Brian, would you clarify? Are you arguing that the animal products are necessary? I think that's what you're saying, but I don't want to misunderstand your point, and then I'm happy to discuss. So clarify, please, if you would, while we continue. I'm not sure your point. You're asking, are you wrong? I appreciate the clarification, but I don't quite understand your point. If you want to just take a few minutes and write it out, and we'll read it. We love dissent. Welcome it. No problem. If it is that, I may misunderstand.
And maybe there's division amongst vegans, but I think, like, strictly vegan speaking, vegans don't consume honey either.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've read a little bit about, I'm not informed on the honeybees issue and commercial honey operations, and there's smaller honey operations, but it's basically, get this is a new idea for me. Bees are livestock. And therefore any manipulation of livestock is always going to be bad for the animal and exploiting it and, forcing, they do pull the wings off the queen so it can't leave the hive and can't swarm and blah, 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 blah. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard some awful stuff and eventually need to turn my eyes to that. I've just been focusing on the low-hanging fruit of a giant cow and dairy cow.
I'm sorry, Red Brian. I need clarification again. Who is laughing at farmers who produce food?
If you mean us, please say so. Come on.
Or he could be talking about him. He could be talking about Lunny, because there is a difference between farmers and ranchers, but most people lump them into the same thing. Animal ag is necessary. Oh, okay. So now we see where he's coming from.
Yeah. No, appreciate it, Red Brian. Thank you. I mean, for wading into this. So tell us why animal agriculture is necessary. No, I mean, I'm so relaxed with these discussions because I'm pretty well versed in this, and my understanding it is absolutely not necessary. But convince us otherwise. Come for it.
Oh, yes, let's let him run the show.
Yeah, I think we can turn them out.
So animal agriculture provides food, and what other agriculture doesn't?
Well, also, Red Brian, again, you're going to have good cop, bad cop coming at you here, but you have to put a huge amount of plant feed through the cow, wait a few years, and then you can harvest, kill that cow. Setting aside the brutality for just a moment, but I don't want to set it aside forever because Leah would fry me. It's an incredibly inefficient way. Those cows we're looking at in the picture require 40 gallons of water per day per cow. 40 gallons of water per day per cow for years, and more for a dairy cow. So just on the water alone in the dry West, it's an incredibly inefficient waste of water and way to raise the food that comes eventually from the milk or the meat from those cows. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, and the word necessary is incorrect.
Well, and necessary.
Most people watching this show are living proof, including Jack and I, who can probably defeat people half our age in sports events.
And so, Red Brian, we're not laughing at farmers. We're ridiculing Kevin Lunny, a dairy farmer and a beef farmer who's lying about things. He's lying about the history of Point Reyes. Again, I don't need to get nasty. Just like, let's talk facts, man. Let's go at it, because I believe the facts are wildly stacked on our side of the equation. So necessary, it's not. We've got a whole bunch of vegans in this show here. And again, I applaud you for wading into this discussion, but we have a whole bunch of vegans that don't eat the products and we're perfectly healthy. In fact, I would argue more healthy. So that it's not necessary. Don't explain that to me, why you say it's necessary. Let's get into these are the things. I've had debates or tried to have discussions with pro-animal ag folks, and I can never control it and say, let's establish some facts here. Not just
let's also acknowledge something else.
Mm-hmm.
Facts are facts and liars are liars. If I was about to go and eat a piece of steak right after this, it wouldn't change the fact that Kevin Lunny just lied on camera. Lies are lies.
And specifically, Schuyler, so Red Brian can push back if he'd like to. Kevin Lunny was saying that the cattle ranchers were instrumental in creating Point Reyes Seashore, and that they were promised, in effect, that they should stay there and continue this experiment of private cows on public land. And that's not true. They were given 25 years in most cases to leave and paid millions of dollars, and then they never left. They were never supposed to be. Nowhere in the park's charter does it say that the cattle ranchers of Point Reyes would stay there in perpetuity, that they were supposed to stay there forever. Never written down anywhere. They make that claim routinely, but it's not written down in words, in law, in legislation. It's just not true.
When we think about bees as livestock, it makes me think about ecology and purpose, because you've taken away the purpose of the bee. You've taken away its ecological role. You have, in fact, turned it into livestock for commodities, which is the same thing as livestock. They pretend like they are imitating ungulates that eat grass in the wild, but they actually have no purpose on that land other than to be commodities. So no, I absolutely do not support turning bees into livestock. Are bees necessary for pollination and for the continuation of the producer level of the food chain? Yes, absolutely.
Wild bees do it fine. We don't need to be manipulated in order for that to continue. It's done very well without humans in the first place. Red Brian says, and again, Brian, man, I commend your courage here. 86% of livestock feed is not edible, and that's probably true. Green water is the leading source of water. Do you mean green or gray? Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying it's not potable for human water that's fed to the cow, so therefore it's not the same. That's your. Oh, hang on. And he says, just back it up again. He had a point there. The comment, if you would. Oh, that's right. The feed. Most of the feed is not edible for humans. Well, that's true too. We've discussed on this podcast before a documentary called King Corn, which shows that GMO soy and corn, and in this case organic in these farms, is not edible for humans, but it's growing a huge amount of corn and soy or alfalfa that could be fed, if it was the human edible stuff, directly to humans. Instead, it's incredibly inefficient, where you have to feed it 10 times the amount of calories to the cows in order to, in years later, eat the cows. Just eat
Right.
the animal
So
product. Eat the vegetables directly. That's all.
it makes it sound like they're trying to do a favor by using inedible grains and giving them to the cows. They were only raised, that those crops were specifically raised for cattle in the first place. So no, it's something that's inedible and was raised intentionally, which is also very inefficient, by the way. The crops used for cattle are also extremely intense in their water needs. But as Chris Cedar has pointed out and Karen have pointed out, don't let someone hijack the show. The viewership was high when we were actually going through um, the video, and now it's dropping off.
Is it? I mean, fine, we can go back, but I actually, maybe it's a different show, but I
Are
would,
you going to have a vegan argument with every non-vegan that comes on
I,
and repeat yourself?
well,
If you can, it's a journey. You're not going to convince anyone right now.
no, but it's good for the audience to hear the debunking. It's like I watch videos all the time of vegan activists on the street for, I don't know, AV or whatever, making these. I've heard it 1,000 times, but I always like to. I guess I'm interested in the interactions between people. Will he follow a logical train of thought? Will he sidestep the issues? And it shows people how to debate rather than just, oh, you're an idiot or you're an ass. I appreciate the fact that guys on here, I really do, because it's like wandering into a farmer's thing and saying you guys are all full of beans and debating it with them rather than just name calling. So if it's not name calling, I don't think he's trolling. I think he's being sincere. I think it's actually productive to engage and beat back every argument he puts up. I don't think he's a troll, NC, but maybe you guys do. I just don't.
He clearly hasn't thought this through. So,
but
look at the corn argument and the soy argument, which aren't.
Grass is a crop. Well, I guess you could say it is, but I would say it's a really inefficient one. Having grass in a national park is not.
What's grass grown for? Humans? No. This is our point.
Yeah.
Stop the stupid circle.
No,
show me the hay. Show me the hay aisle in the grocery store, everyone. I'll show you the land being wasted on hay that then gets wasted on cattle that then may or may not make it to your plate. Most likely won't even get there because it's even worse than crops. Listen, the food system's broken. Like, what do you want, an award for pointing out that the human food system is broken? It is.
I was profoundly affected, 35 years ago. I was in my mother's darkroom in Westchester County, New York, doing some black and white printing. I was just learning. And it was, I think Darren or Derek McGinty had a TV show on a public radio station. And he's a black dude. And he was talking about civil rights, whatever. And a guy called up and was a racist outright and was saying it. And it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? This conflict. And he just gave him his full attention and engaged with the guy, which the guy didn't expect. He was, it wasn't called trolling back then. This is in the 1980s. But it fascinated me. And for me as a listener, it taught me how to discuss this. And, the black dude who was being insulted was civil. And he, quote unquote, won the argument because he was willing to engage with the guy. And the guy, of course, didn't have arguments. To your point, Skylar, there is no, you and I are well versed in this stuff. I'm not an expert, but I'm well informed. And there is no argument for eating meat. It just doesn't make sense ecologically, for health, and certainly not for the environment. So I don't get my dander up. It's like, great, what arguments is he going to trot out? Like, hey, we need to eat them. Well, it's nonsense. And people can hear that, and it reinforces our message, which is it's a way of the past. We don't need to do this anymore. It's incredibly inefficient. And we haven't touched on with Brian here the climate crisis, methane from cows, because you can't go there. You'll lose that argument. That's why they talk about soil carbon all the time, but not methane. So I'm for engaging with opponents on this stuff. And maybe you don't have the patience for it. I get it.
Well, tell you what, I'll feel better if we pretend that we were ever going to get through this show. And it was never the goal. And the goal is to come and walk people who say grass is native through common sense thinking. What the fuck does that even mean? Here, number one, there are 12,000 species of grass, and none of the ones being used for cattle are native. Grass is native. Jesus Christ.
Meaning it's brought in from Europe to a different country where there's not enough water to support it, unlike in England where there's a lot more rain to support it than in the West, in the West and West. Okay, anyway, fair enough.
If this is the extent of the arguments, then no, he doesn't deserve my attention.
This is when you and I disagree about stuff, we make it a lively show, Skylar, but let's run the film. Thank you. After a multi-year review of ranching operations at the seashore prompted by environmentalists, that's true, in 2021, the Park Service decided ranching could continue if environmental improvements were made. Well, that's misleading. That's not quite true. They had a proposal on the GMPA. The Resource Renewal Institute, Western Watersheds, and Center for Biological Diversity disagreed and sued the Park Service, totally within their rights, increasing pressure to remove the ranchers. Well, that's true, but not the context isn't right. Negotiations were held privately, leaving most locals. Well, that's true. They were held privately, as all negotiations are for legal issues. They're not thrown out in public, every little nuance of it. It's called discussions in private. That's how things are advanced in legal cases.
Well, let's go back to the posing of
there you go.
This being pushed by environmentalists. Why did environmentalists have to do this, Jack?
Well, let me back up one step further, and thank you for doing this. What that statement says is that the Park Service decided ranching could continue. There were, what is it, 5, A, B, C, D, E? There's several different options, and the Park Service under
all the way to F at least.
To F, right? F was the worst or something like that for fail. Anyway, there were different proposals made by the Park Service, and of course they're under constant political pressure to bend the knee, if you will, again in that phrase, to the cattle industry, which they did. And they said, okay, we recommend this. And then as the process is supposed to go, then the public weighs in on that decision. And other entities are allowed to sue. It's all completely natural. This is very cleverly, skillfully worded to make you think the Park Service had decided, and then these darn environmentalists got in the way with a lawsuit, as if that's abnormal or wrong. It isn't abnormal and it isn't wrong. Totally
You
legal.
actually did not back up far enough.
Go ahead.
Why did environmentalists have to step in to get the Park Service to check up on the environmental conditions of the national park?
Oh, I see where you're going, wise guy with the American hat.
They had to be sued to do their effing jobs.
You're saying the Park Service was negligent in allowing major polluters to stay there and lie about it. Is that what you're saying? That's what you're getting at, buddy?
They weren't just negligent in allowing it. They weren't even conducting the environmental assessments.
We citizens had to do the water testing, in fact.
So anyway, the lies are deeper. And this is why I don't like to engage in the side conversation, because people who have gotten past the first stage want to hear about the actual history of Point Reyes, not talk about grass and why that means we should all eat meat.
Fair enough.
After the results came in, that, by the way, destroyed ranchers. The results showed that it was devastating to the environment.
Polluting the water from manure on the land, for instance, specifically.
It's one of many, many, many things. Yeah. I mean, we're going back to 2021. Now we have to rattle off the history from 2021 because of the lies Kevin Lunny is putting on the screen here.
Yeah.
They ignored what the environmental impact statement said and chose to go forward with a plan that was a carbon copy of the demands sent from the Point Reyes Ranching Association to the Park Service.
Right. Of total proxy, total rubber stamp. Whatever you guys want, we'll give you everything.
Which should be disturbing to people on a lot of levels. Not only did environmental organizations that were named on the screen have to push the Park Service to even test how badly ranching was affecting the land. When they got the results back, the Park Service said, don't give a shit. Don't give a shit about evidence.
Point taken. Yeah. Environmentalists are the heroes in this story. Without the environmentalists, and of course, all the people the civilians that supported the environmental organizations, the cow service, the National Cow Service, the National Park Service would have just rubber stamped this whole dirty operation again.
It was their plan. It
has been since the 1960s.
And before that, Huffman tried to push through legislation which would have just granted the new 20-year leases without anything taking place before anyone like RRI or Western Watersheds could even step in. Oh, it's just, sorry, it's already done.
Yep. Doesn't that look like
so he threw us in a little bit. If improvements were made, there were some very, very, very vague statements that said, we're gonna closely monitor whether or not, and I made the point back then, people who violate as much as they possibly can while being called stewards of the land, but who violate their own leases and violate the land as much as they possibly can, are now going to be graced with, well, they say that they're going to do better. That's all we needed to hear.
Yeah, well, exactly. In other words, they don't monitor, but this time we'll trust them to monitor themselves. By the way, throw that picture up again. It's such a brilliant, I always tip my hat to the opponent who does great propaganda. Whatever that is, like 30 cows there, green grass, a couple little low ranch buildings. It looks so sweet and agrarian. And that right there is a very misleading picture. It's not a lie, but it's a lying by omission, which is there are hundreds, and as our point before, 5,000, 6,000 cows on that land, and it only looks green a few months of the year. Most of the time it looks beaten down or bare dirt in the cases around the ranching complex. Very skillful propaganda, I suppose, this photograph.
Yeah.
Corinne, we citizens have to do everything. Yeah, indeed, Corinne. It's disgusting. And it also, I just sort of accept it as that's why we self-described environmentalists and activists have to exist. And 3, Resource Renewal Institute, Western Watersheds Project, and Center for Biological Diversity disagreed and sued the Park Service, increasing pressure. Well, that's a true statement, actually, even out of context there. Negotiations were held privately, leaving most locals in the dark. Well, that's true, because it's not the business of the locals to get involved with the details of a lawsuit.
I moved to Marin 10 years ago. My field work in Yellowstone National Park was looking at elk management and conflicts between the National Park Service and ranchers. Between 2012 and 2014, hundreds of elk died at Point Reyes National Seashore. Elk at the northern end of the peninsula were behind a fence that prohibited them from traveling in search of forage or water or anything like that, because they would compete with the commercial ranching operations in the seashore. Our organization wanted to question the National Park Service's management of resources that are essentially held in public trust for everybody, and say, like, what are the justifications for doing these things, and how does that align with the directive of the National Park Service to leave resources unimpaired for future generations?
There's a meat eater.
Yeah.
Cuando está uno joven, creo que no piensa viajar a Estados Unidos. Simplemente escucha los comentarios de que es muy bonito, de que puedes tener carro, puedes tener una bicicleta, una moto, una casa, algo grande, ¿no?
So now this is tugging on the heartstrings, like these poor folks are, we've done them harm. We, the environmentalists, the ranchers, really care about them.
Llegamos al área de Pismo, cerca de Fresno. Las primeras semanas me sentí muy mal. Quería regresarme a mi país.
Very skillfully done.
Donde vivíamos antes, mi hijo estaba sufriendo el bullying en la escuela. Mi esposo miró oportunidad diferente. Y ya
I'm sorry, where is this supposed to be?
This is on a ranch. These are workers on a ranch. I don't know which housing they're in. Presumably ranch A housing, but I don't, or a ranch housing, but I don't know.
This is utter bullshit.
Go ahead. I mean, you've been there to interview these folks, and this is not how they live.
Yeah, I've been to the buildings. They're falling down and have moss growing off of the rotten wood. I think this is footage of them cleaning one of the ranchers' houses.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, and to your point, they don't say. They say a ranch worker, but they don't say where they are. They imply it. Very interesting.
If in fact anyone, you're not going to win either way with me, because first of all, you're living in shitty conditions, and then you turn around and defend the people that made you live in shitty conditions. 2, if anyone who is a ranch worker has a house that nice, I'm also pissed off. because I have 4 degrees and don't have a house that nice.
Well, again, I'm always aware that the middle and mostly upper classes want to pit working workers at the bottom of the economic ladder against each other, divide and conquer. So I'm always wary of that tactic.
Sympathetic, twangy guitar music. Yep, indeed.
Yep.
Good observation.
Yep.
Observation. Music is used in a very manipulative manner by everyone.
By everyone, yeah, exactly.
But it's powerful. It's important.
Después le ofrecieron trabajo en una lechería. Puedo decir que fue la mejor decisión vernos movido aquí a esta área de Point Reyes.
Damn right, it was a good decision. It's the only place you're protected from ice.
Yeah, because the ranchers are, oh God, don't get me started. Yeah, the whole hypocrisy about ice.
O sea, es una área donde siento que te apapacha, ¿no? Te sientes confortable, sientes calidez. Mi trabajo es de limpieza de casas.
There you go.
There you go. My work is cleaning houses. Do you see how misleading this bullshit is?
Very good. Wow. They have to live on a dairy farm, paying the rancher to live in squalid conditions, which they don't show, so they can clean the plantation owner's house before going back to work the fields to pick the cotton.
Cuando estoy trabajando y que toca los fines de semana, mi esposo me ayuda, mis hijos me ayudan, entonces aportan bastante.
Hey, how come she has to do this on the weekends? Is it because she's getting so poorly paid as a ranch hand that she needs this other exploitive job on the side?
I just keep thinking this is the plantation stuff again, where no, we loves our house slaves. We treat them well. They're part of the family. We don't let them in the house except to clean, but we don't give them lemonade on the porch sometime if they're well behaved.
Well, then these people are the equivalent of a Hispanic Uncle Tom.
Yeah. And that makes Kevin money, you know what?
Bueno, nosotros ahorita en el área que vivimos es uno de los ranchos.
She could be
Nosotros
living in
ahorita
a
nos
trailer.
sentimos confundidos y estresados.
Why would you be confused? Your boss is going out of business. Why would you continue to have a job? How many people have ever lost their job when the business they were working for went under? I don't understand what's confusing about that.
You mean like the Trump administration firing 4,000 government workers on a Friday and saying tough darts because we're being efficient, lying through their teeth?
I said this before. Where's the sympathy for the park rangers who used to live on parkland?
Oh, Skyward, what do we do, man? We're coming up 10:20. We've been at this an hour and 20 minutes, and we're just scratching another.
I need a break because I'm angry.
You are? You, Skyward? No, come on. What's the matter, buddy? Well, folks, the car comes, our vehicle comes screeching to a halt here. Okay, we're done. Everybody out. We're turning off the engine. We're walking away. We're disgusted. I need some more gas.
I'm not sitting through the rest of the.
Yeah, it's painful. It's painful, especially for you. If you were actually interviewing some of these workers, and you know the truth more than any of us do. More than any of us do. Thanks to your reporting, we've learned, how squalid the conditions were there. But you have to listen to this drivel. I'm sure it's more painful.
I don't understand the huge population of people who are supposedly poor and can manage to eat so much that they're morbidly obese. How poor can you be?
Well, that's, my friend, that is lack of education and nutritional training. And I mean, even people who are educated, eat terribly. So, I mean, that's typical. Is in poor communities, there's a lot of obesity because they're eating too much of the wrong foods and not getting nutrition. Hell,
Jack,
I was
not cheap though. But fast food's not even cheap.
I was, lower middle class growing up in New York State, and I was eating huge amounts of, Coke and McDonald's and just the junkiest junk food. It's probably 6,000 calories a day. The difference was I was, very athletic and had a fast metabolism. But if I wasn't, I would be obese too, as growing up as a kid.
An honest doubter says most YouTube channels wish they had viewer engagement. You guys are doing it right. What, by engaging a little bit and then backing off?
Well, by engaging with her, I think, honest outer, thank you, just by engaging with you guys at all. Well, we appreciate you guys here. And, we need to find a marketing person who knows how to, work the algorithm and get more eyeballs in this stuff. We imagine our content. We like to think our content is fairly engaging and consistent, but getting people to tune in and reaching out through the algorithm is another game.
Okay. All right, everybody. Appreciate it.
We will be back here as we always are, 9 o'clock Pacific time on every Tuesday. This is Skyward Thomas of Watching Humans page on YouTube. And this is where you say, and that's Jack Gescheit of the Tree Spirit Project on his website, treespiritproject.com. But Skyward, he's been beaten down by having to watch this slop again, having a bucket of it poured over his head. So,
hey, people, you know what I did when I started learning about Point Reyes? I went back to school and studied ecology and documented it firsthand, and have gone out relentlessly viewing the effects of non-native species on wildlife, and how many non-native species do exist, and how many of them are here because of animal agriculture. So I don't have the patience for people who are still at stage one.
I feel that way when I watch sometimes animal rights activists on the streets engaging with people one-on-one, again and again and again, every day, every weekend, whatever they do. I mean, it's, they're doing a great service, but God, the patience to do that, I don't have that either. So anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. God knows what we'll be talking about then. Maybe more. Maybe we'll do another 3 minutes of this film in another hour, or not.
I was going to say another 5 seconds, but
we might just be done with it. Like, okay, enough is enough. Yeah.
Hey, I'll put out another debunking video right after this.
Is that what you're worked up to do?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.